Thank you for joining us, Phil. Can you just kind of take us through what this scene was like watching this incredible result unfold?
Hi guys, I am at the stadium. I'm not sure how good the Wi-Fi is, so I hope you can hear me, and I hope I can talk to you about what was a wild and incredible here in Albacete. Absolutely historic evening this evening. Albacete have never beaten Real Madrid. This is the first time they ever played in the Copa del Rey. They've never beaten them, and they've beaten them in style, and they were deserved winners tonight. I really felt like Albacete were better than Real Madrid. They were clearly set up. They had a really clear plan. Real Madrid played with absolutely no idea. If anybody was going to change with Xabi Alonso going and Alvaro Arbeloa coming in, they were sorely mistaken. There was nothing, absolutely nothing from Real Madrid this evening. Albacete played the game of their lives, and they were worthy winners.
Can I ask you about Jefte Betancor coming off the bench and scoring 2 goals? What a special moment that must have been. But actually watching from afar, the atmosphere, Phil, the atmosphere looked like it was spectacular. Almost blew the roof off the stadium when he scored that winning goal.
There isn't much roof on this stadium to blow off because it's pretty open. But if this had been the Bernabeu, it would have been gone because it was absolutely extraordinary. I think the manager did brilliantly because Betancor didn't start and Agus Medina, who played the big part, didn't start either, and he brought them off after they brought them on with the last 30 minutes. I mean, this is I don't want to say it's Albacete's B team playing, but they made 8 changes from the league team that started. I mean, at the weekend, I know Real Madrid made a lot of changes for this game, but so did Albacete. And they still were superior to Real Madrid, vastly superior. Betancor, you mentioned how many clubs he's been at in Austria, in Romania, in Cyprus, in Greece, and he was on tears in Spanish TV about full time, just saying how much this means to him. He will never forget this. 2 absolutely cracking goals, maybe some question marks about Andre Lunin, who's played 3 games this season and has conceded a lot of goals in those 3 games. But yeah, nothing to take away from Betancor. What a finish, what a night for Albacete, and what a disastrous start for Alvaro Arbeloa. The headline on one of the Spanish websites at the moment is beginning with a disaster, and that's what he's done, because this is a historically bad defeat for Real Madrid. We may or may not talk about Alvaro Arbeloa's tenure in the future, who knows, but people will talk about this result for years to come. Real Madrid do not lose to lower league teams in the Copa del Rey, and when they do, it is historic. They've lost to Alcoyano, they lost to Alcorcon famously, Real Union, Toledo going back 25 years, but this doesn't tend to happen, and when it does, it stays in people's memory. So tonight's game won't be forgotten, not just by Albacete fans, but by Real Madrid fans as well. Historically bad night for Real Madrid.
That takes me into my next question. I suppose the big topic on everyone's mind is, well, was there going to be a new manager bounce with Arbeloa coming in? Maybe Xabi Alonso wasn't fancied by the players. Now the players are going to give it a go. How much does this put the new manager on the back foot after just 1 game in charge?
Yeah, massively. It really does, Chris. They're at home to Levante at the weekend. Levante, the second bottom of their table, in the relegation zone, in all sorts of trouble. Imagine if they go to the Bernabeu and even put in a half-decent performance and Real Madrid only win 2-1 or something. Just the question marks are still around this team, and it's going to be very difficult. Manager bounce. It feels like it's going to be very, very difficult. The energy from the players today wasn't there. If anybody thought that they were suddenly going to spark into life and run and press and do all the things that Xabi Alonso wanted them to do, which they weren't doing, well, we didn't see that. We didn't see any of that. I mean, there were 1 or 2 things that, I thought, Arda Güler was trying to get on the ball a lot. Franco Mastantuono scored and he was given a little bit of confidence. I thought Vinicius was atrocious this evening, absolutely appalling. There were all sorts of other performances that were questionable all around the pitch. Didn't see much from Fede Valverde at all, playing in midfield where he wants to play. And yeah, the pressure continues for Real Madrid, and there is zero margin for error now. Out of the Spanish Super Cup, that's the easiest way to win a trophy this season. Out of the Copa del Rey, that's the second easiest way to win a trophy. So now they've got the league and the Champions League left to play for. And at the moment, it's very, very difficult to see them even coming close to challenging for either of those 2 trophies.
an unthinkable proposition. Back-to-back years without a trophy for Real Madrid, but things are not going well right now. Phil Kitromilides, thank you so much for enduring the Wi-Fi, but also congratulations on enjoying a brilliant game of football in person. Thank you for joining us, sir.
Thanks, guys. Anytime.
And that is Phil Kitromilides live from Albacete, the site of a mammoth upset today in Spanish football. And I do think, unfortunately, the story here is Real Madrid and how big it is for a new manager to come in. You would think this is kind of the gimme game. You get a game against a second-tier opposition. Yes, it's away, but it should be a customary victory. And instead, you're tossed right into the fire, right into all the things, all the pressure about being the Real Madrid manager Arbeloa is experiencing from day one in charge.
He's not off to a good start. I mean, let's just put it straightforward. This is very disappointing. I think if you don't take cup competition seriously, very quickly you can be thrown into that fire. These cup competitions are very difficult, especially when you're going to places like Albacete and you know that the supporters are going to be raucous and well and truly up for it. They hadn't seen their team win in 5 games before going into this game, and Real Madrid are coming to town. Of course they're going to be up for that game. There's a great stat going out there right now, though, that only one of Real Madrid's last 9 managers has lost their first game in charge, and that was Lopetegui all the way back in 2018. So not a great start, and certainly historically not a great start as well. The players have to take a good long look at themselves. We can talk about that in just a minute. But I really want to talk about the importance of cup competition and taking it seriously. I made a bit of a living in Germany at St. Pauli, actually knocking out some big teams. But when you go to places that are difficult to play, the fields are not always perfect, the conditions are sometimes difficult, and you've got 11 players who are fighting for their working lives. They're not just playing for 20, 30,000 a week paychecks. Doesn't happen at this level. You're actually going up against players who are fighting for their next paycheck to stay alive, to feed their families. And that means a lot to a lot of these players who are playing for Albacete right now. They're fighting for their futures. So these places are difficult to go to. I remember playing against Leverkusen, knocked them out in round 1 of the DFB Pokal in my second year at St. Pauli. And the news was, it blew up like crazy, and I couldn't believe it because it's not easy. I know, being the underdog, how difficult it is, how together we were as a team, and you could see that from this Albacete side. A lot of good young players obviously playing for them who have gone on to have terrific careers or been journeymen, like obviously Betancor. And actually, interestingly enough, he actually spent some time at Real Madrid at the youth academy as well. So there's been a couple of players who had an impact in this game, spent some time at Real Madrid who have had an impact in knocking them out. It's history. It's a great moment. It's a wonderful club who's playing and actually struggling in the second division right now. But that's what football's all about, Witty, right? Beautiful stories like that. Of course. On the other side, Real Madrid, I can't imagine what the newspapers are going to say.
Well, it's not even just necessarily about the newspapers. It was this idea that a new manager was going to come in, maybe get the ear of the players, get them on side. How difficult is it for him now to get the players on side? How much do you sort of lose in capital with the fans, with the club, with the players as a result of this performance? And I also kind of want you to hit on one of the things that Phil talked about, which was some of the individual performances in this team, which he described as appalling.
Yeah, I wouldn't go as far as to say as Vinny Jr. was awful in this game. I didn't think he was awful. He just wasn't impactful enough in this game. These are difficult places to go play, and sometimes more difficult than going to a pristine Atleti stadium to play in a derby game. It was a young team, especially that backline. You've got a very, very young backline. It's an average age of 23 that was actually out there for the starting 11. But actually in the backline itself, you've got a 21-year-old right back, a 22-year-old centre back, and a Dean Huijsen who's 20 years old himself. I know Garcia is a little bit older, but that midfield's not much older as well. Sesterro is only 19 years old, so you've got a teenager who's trying to create with Mastantuono, who obviously has got a great name for himself, but still a young player. Garcia is a young player, so sometimes the young players can get caught off guard in these types of games. But there were individuals that maybe stood out to have worse performances than others. I'm going to say that the kid that we've been raving about is Gonzalo Garcia for the goals that he's scored and the impact he's had, especially over the last 4 weeks and what he did do in the FIFA Club World Cup. Fantastic. This will be the first bit of criticism he's going to receive because he was poor in set pieces and actually set up the go-ahead goal to make it 2-1. I thought he was very poor and actually lacking in some sort of concentration. So, yeah, I think the youngsters are going to have to take this one on the back of the head, and they might have to take it in front of all the newspapers and actually in front of their own supporters. But I do think Arbeloa's got to move very quickly. I think he will lean heavily on experience in this next game because now that next game is not just a game you've got to perform well in. It's a must-win game now.